Hi BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do my May wrap up. I seriously cannot even believe that May is done and we are on to June. It has been an absolutely fantastic reading month for me. I feel like after my downtime in the first couple months of the year, I am just going like crazy and finishing things left and right, and I'm loving it because I don't know how much longer it's gonna last, especially now that we're getting into summer, which at the library means summer reading, so we will see. But yes, I actually wanted to start off this wrap up with saying a huge thank you to Brock over at Let's Read, who I will link to down below, specifically because his video on like reading chart, like tracking reading in his reading spreadsheet. I downloaded his Google Doc reading spreadsheet and it has like revolutionized my entire life in terms of keeping track of stats on what I'm reading. I had one before, but his is a million times better and I'm so happy to use it. I don't even care. I'm so sorry if you can hear all these noises going on. They're doing some work on like my air conditioning and heating and stuff at the moment, so I apologize in advance for any of that, but I just really wanted to get this filmed and up. But anyway, just a huge thank you to Brock because next month, once I finally get all my data input, I will have super fancy charts for you guys and like percentages and actual numbers, and I'm a stats nerd and I'm just like super excited. Anyway, on to the things I read this month and finished this month. I will start with the things I don't have physical copies of because those are usually like, you know, I don't have pretty things to show your face for your eyes to see. But I finished 3 audiobooks this month. You can hear more in-depth thoughts on them if you look back at my last review because I talk about all 3 of them. But the audiobooks I finished this month are Missoula by John Krakauer, Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and Paddle Your Own Canoe by Nick Offerman. I enjoyed all 3, although I liked Missoula the most out of all 3 of those, and I listened to all 3 of them on Scribd. Also on Scribd, I finished the ebook All Joy But No Fun, The Paradox of Modern Parenting by Jennifer Senior. This is a non-fiction look at kind of the juxtaposition of how much new parents say that their lives are disrupted by having babies and how negative those disruptions can be versus the fact that also babies make people feel more fulfilled than like anything else when it comes to like doing actual studies. So just kind of how that paradox exists and why and what we do to put that on ourselves and what society does to put that on us. And it was really interesting. I gave it 4 stars and I'll link to the Goodreads page down below in case you want more information. Also this month, I read the first 2 single issues of Bitch Planet and I'm absolutely obsessed. I will be purchasing the first trade whenever it comes out. I will be purchasing it in hardback if it comes out that way. I love it. It's amazing. It is a future in which women who do not follow society's standards are literally shipped to a like reformation camp nicknamed Bitch Planet, and they are tattooed non-compliant, and it is about the women of that prison. It's kind of like Orange is the New Black and also nothing like Orange is the New Black, and I borrowed them from my friend Sarah at work, and I hope that she's planning on picking up the next couple of installments because I just cannot wait until this thing is out in a trade bind up. It's absolutely amazing. I also read the first volume of Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, One Weird World. I believe that's what it's called. I think. I'll link to it down below. I'll link to everything I'm talking about down below. And it was great. It was hilarious. I love the writing style. The comic itself was great, but I think what I loved more is all of the extras at the back because I think that Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky as a writing team are some of the funniest like motherfuckers I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm sorry. Usually I don't swear on this channel, but I just like, hot damn. I love Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. And I also finished up the second book in the Miss Sporran series, The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson on my Kindle. It was, I thought, a little bit longer maybe than it needed to be, but I absolutely loved it. I loved the relationship between Vin and Orsur. I love that we got more Sazed. I love that we got more of the Terrace men and Terrace women like population. I just thought it was a great second. Sorry, I'm like working on a sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, goodness, excuse me. I just absolutely love the Terrace men and Terrace women population, so I'm like even more excited to get to the third one, especially because Lindsay Ray says that the final Mistborn book, The Hero of Ages, might be like one of her favorite books of all time. So that's like kind of a hard recommendation to ignore. I'm just saying. But I think that about excuse me, that about covers the non-physical stuff that I read this month. So now on to the physical stuff. The stuff that I actually have like pretty covers to show you. To kind of pick up where we left off for the most part, I also finished the second volume of Sex Criminals. Volume 2, Two Worlds, One Cop by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. This picks up where we left off in the first one. For those of you who haven't seen the first one floating around and don't know what it's basically about John and Susie. John and Susie have a power where when they orgasm, they stop time. And if they orgasm with each other, they stop time together, and they can go and like have adventures together. And they use that power to go rob banks. That's what happens in the first one. In the second one, we kind of see the fallout from what happens when they rob the bank. And we meet way more, we meet even more people. The universe kind of expands a little bit. We meet more people who have this power. And there's kind of clearly some like sides forming and what is going to be kind of like a battle between the two. I'm really excited to see where this pans out at. I'm going to try and find a page that's not too wholly inappropriate. It might be a little, here we go. This one's a little inappropriate, but it's not too bad. So I just like want to show you the inappropriate parts. But yeah, as you can see, like all the color lines and stuff, that's what it looks like when time stops, when they orgasm, they go into, John calls it Cum World and Susie calls it the Quiet. Everybody kind of has a different name for it. I'm just really excited to see this universe keep expanding and see where it all goes. Also in the graphic novel arena, I finished up the first volume of The Wicked and the Divine, the Faust Act. I am obsessed with this graphic novel. I think that it is quite possibly like one of the most beautiful graphic novels I've put my hands on in so long. I know Elizabeth kind of had mixed feelings about it over at Books and Pieces. Books and Pieces, but I am absolutely obsessed. I can't even wait for the second volume. It is about every 90 years, 12 gods come back to Earth and incarnate themselves in like human bodies, but they die after 2 years, so they get 2 years to come, raise hell, party, make money, have sex, do drugs, rock and roll, live the life, but then they die, and they know that they die, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking and breathtaking. It's pretty chunky for a graphic novel. I mean, it feels pretty weighty compared to like, Sex Criminals or Chew or, even The Walking Dead, something like that. This feels heftier, but it's absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for the second trade to come out. Please pick it up. Do yourself a favor and pick it up because it's so gorgeous. And lastly, speaking of Chew, I finally finished Volume 4, Flambe, where we see Tony Chew continue his detective adventures. This time he gets to work with his sister, Toni the Girl, Toni, who works for NASA. These kind of giant fire letters have appeared in the sky, and nobody really knows what's going on with that. Does it have something to do with the ban on chicken? Does it not have something to do with the ban on chicken? It's this, yet again, another hilarious installment of Chew. Not one of my favorites. I liked this one almost about as much as I liked the second one, which is like my least favorite in the whole series. But luckily, I've already got Volume 5, and so I'm just going to keep chugging right along. I mean, even when you don't like Chew, you still like Chew. You know what I mean? Like, it's still Chew, so it's wonderful. And moving on to slightly longer books, I also read Shards of Honor by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is the first book in the Vorkosigan saga. We meet Cordelia and what is the other one's name? Of course, I don't remember. Oh, I think they just called him Vorkosigan. Yeah. I don't know if they say his first name. If they do, I didn't miss it. That should probably indicate to you approximately what my feelings were for this book. I did not love it. I have chatted a little bit with Rachel from Colonnati, who loves the Vorkosigan series, about what to do with that, and she recommends just skipping right ahead to Miles's story. He's like the actual main hero of the Vorkosigan series. This is like a prequel. This is actually how Miles's parents met, and I like the love story parts, but it read very weird to me, very much so like a serial. The chapters were weirdly self-contained and wrapped up and then started a new storyline, but I was not a huge fan. I'm thinking I'm just going to skip ahead. I'm wanting to keep going because I like I'm wanting to keep going with the sci-fi. Like, I think Lois McMaster Bujold is a good writer of science fiction, and I'm not nearly as much into science fiction as I am into fantasy. But all in all, not a huge fan. I think I only gave it like 3 stars on Goodreads. I may even have given it like 2.5. So the next book I read, I enjoyed much, much more, speaking of fantasy, and it was Here There Be Dragons, the first book in the Chronicles of the Imaginarium Geographica by James A. Owen. First heard about this on Sam's channel, Novels and Nonsense. It is the story of John, Jack, and Charles, who are all three appointed the caretakers of this atlas called the Imaginarium Geographica, which is literally a collection of maps of a dream world called the Archipelago of Dreams, where all of our story myths come from. The kind of gap between the worlds is saleable, and so we get all of our good stories from the Archipelago of Dreams. You know, our dragons, our unicorns, Captain Nemo, Captain Hook, fairies, mermaids, all of these things, magic ships. There are so many little winks and nods to classic fairy tales, folklore, and mythology in this book. Even the actual names of the three caretakers I won't ruin, but they are the names of some of the biggest fantasy and kind of fairy tale writers that we know of. I've already started the second book because it's available digitally, and James M. Barrie plays a role. I just absolutely love this book. I also really, really, really loved the illustrations. Each, like the beginning of each chapter kind of has a frontispiece illustration, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Do yourself a favor and pick it up. I think there are 5 books in the series, but it goes so fast. It's middle grade. As you can see, when it comes to the text, it's not super small. It's fairly spaced out. It's lots of dialogue. I absolutely adored it, and I'm so excited to keep going with the series. And then lastly, what I've been working on this month is the Parasol Protectorate series, which shouldn't come as any surprise to you because you guys have been seeing these books for like months. I finished the first one, Soulless, in April, so in May I started and finished Changeless, and started and finished Blameless. These are book 2 and book 3 respectively. They continue the story of Alexia Terabati, who is a soulless preternatural in a steampunk Victorian London. After the first one, she spends quite a bit more time with the vampires and the werewolves. Each book is kind of a self-contained mystery or adventure story, but also clearly like overlaps with the universe as a whole. They are absolutely hilarious. Gail Carriger is a dirty, dirty bat, and I think that she's absolutely fabulous. I love it. None of it is graphic. It's all very subtle, but it's all hilarious. I just think that there's no OTP better to ship than Alexia and Connell, and they make my heart just go all aflutter and give me all of the feels. And from the character names to the steampunk kind of interjections in this Victorian setting, I could not love these books more. I'm absolutely obsessed. I heard about them from Lindsay Ray. She's obsessed with them. She could not be more right. Pick them up, give them a read. You'll fly through them. There are 5 in the series. Gail Carriger also has a young adult series that I'm planning on reading, and has just put out Prudence, the first book, in another series that she's starting. So there's all kinds of Gail Carriger out there for you to sink your teeth into. I'm looking forward to doing it. I will be back in a couple of weeks. That wraps up my May wrap up, guys. That's all the books that I read in May. I will be back in a couple of days with my June TBR. There are a couple of buddy reads that I'm doing, including one for Inda, although it's not technically part of the Inda Club read along. Connor and Sarah and I are all reading it. We started on Memorial Day, and we are, plugging right along. And so that's part of my June reading plans, but I also have a bunch of other things I want to get done that I will talk about in that video. Until then, please let me know down below if you've read any of these books as well, what your thoughts were. Just, give me a shout out. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys around the internet. Bye.